I think people think of mining as something that happened in the 1800s, and at the Moss Mine, it started with donkeys and pack mules and underground operations and pick and shovel operations. But mining has become really high tech.
Hi, I'm Tim Swendseid. I'm the CEO of Elevation Gold. Today we're producing a video that has a complete mining process at the Moss Mine. We are an open pit heap leach gold mine, and we're going to talk about processes from exploration drilling through pouring doré bars, which is our final product. To achieve this requires a lot of processes. This includes exploration drilling, geologic modeling, mine planning, drilling, blasting, loading, hauling, crushing, leaching, extracting gold, and delivering the doré bars to a refinery. By the end of the video, you'll have a solid understanding of how we take raw ore and turn it into gold, which we are able to sell into the market.
My name is Kyle Scherg. I'm the mine manager at the Moss Mine. I oversee the mine planning, the surveying, the geology departments. Exploration starts with our geologist in the field. He's out there mapping and collecting chip samples off the ground to help us define targets. Once we have that information, he's looking at the geophysics and other drilling data we have to come up with these targets. And once we have these targets defined, we bring in an exploration drill rig. We always start with core rigs in areas we don't know too much about, such as Florence Hill. And we'll go drill a couple holes, maybe 300-400 feet away from each other. And then once we get that geological knowledge, we'll bring in an RC rig where we'll drill tighter patterns, basically 50 foot by 50 foot or 100 by 100 foot. And we're using those to get grades from the material in the ground underneath it. And all these assays get sent to a third-party lab. And while we're waiting for those assays, our geologist will detail log all of the chips or core samples to understand the lithology, mineralogy, alteration, silicification, oxidation. We use that information to build a geologic model of the subsurface. Then right when we get those assays in, we'll use those to update our actual resource block model, which we use for planning. And with that block model, we'll then go into the steps of mine planning, where we'll start off with optimization to determine the ultimate pit. And that takes into account all of our costs, drill blast, load haul, processing, royalties, refining cost, and that will be used to determine our ultimate pit boundaries. So before we can mine any material from the pit, we need to drill and blast it. We drill on a pattern spacing that's different for the hardness of the rock. So one area of the pit we might drill 12 by 12 foot, the other area 13 by 13 foot. And we do this to get the best fragmentation we can. So after the material is blasted, we then start loading and hauling it. When looking at hauling, an important thing is the road conditions. We need to make sure these roads are flat, smooth, and don't have any spill rock on them. And they're also adequate width for two-way haulage. And these haul trucks will haul the ore to the ROM pad, which is by our crusher, and the waste to our waste dumps.
Hi, my name is Justin Black. I'm the process manager at the Moss Gold Mine, which means I'm over the crusher, the leach pad, the Merrill, Crowe, and the refinery. And essentially my role is to ensure that the ore delivered from the mine turns into doré bars that we can sell to the market. The crusher is important to the mining process because the gold in this case is found within the ore in very finite locations, and in order to access it we have to break up and create more surface area in the ore. So we're basically making big rocks into little rocks so that our process solutions can contact the gold and dissolve it and make it a viable feed for the rest of the process. So the leaching process begins with stacking a 30-foot lift of that quarter-inch crushed material. And once it's all stacked up and evenly spaced in elevation, we'll put plumbing on top where we deliver a cyanide solution. And cyanide in low concentrations can be used to contact the gold and silver that's in the ore, dissolve it, and then take that dissolved metal down in solution to the bottom of the pad, where it eventually goes by gravity into our ponds, which feed our Merrill Crowe plant. So the Merrill Crowe process is unique to mines that have a high ratio of silver to gold, usually both silver and gold. And what it is we take that pregnant solution from the leach pad and we de-aerate it and remove the turbidity, which are all the suspended solids, in a few steps. And once we have that really clean solution, we'll feed dry zinc reagent into it, and that zinc precipitates out the gold and silver into a sludge that we capture on a process filter, and we'll do that for about a week. And after a week of collecting that sludge, that precipitate, we'll open the presses up, we'll wash them down, dry them off, put it all in an oven, and then that sludge ends up being the feed material to our furnace. And when we feed that precipitate into the furnace along with a few kind of mixing reagents called flux, it all melts, and then the furnace uses variable melting points and densities between all the different metal components to separate out what we don't want from what we do. And what we do want is primarily gold and silver. We pour them in the molds, and then they look like the gold bars anyone would picture. They're just a little more gray, since it's the mix of gold and silver, and we don't polish them before we ship them. And once doré leaves our site, it'll go to an end refiner, and that end refiner will take the doré, melt it down again, and they'll produce a 99.9% gold and a 99.9% silver, and those are what goes to the market.
Hello, my name is Jim Fowler. I'm the general manager here at the Moss Mine. I'm responsible for everything essentially from A to Z, starting with the exploration process all the way through to the shipment of doré to the refinery. Throughout the operations, there's high-tech, communication systems in place and monitoring systems in place, and that really allow us to take advantage of technology, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's autonomous mining and automation. That is all plays a very important role to making the Moss Mine the best mine it can be. There's no part of the operation that doesn't play a significant role, and if each team member or each part of the process doesn't reach their optimum level of performance, the team as a whole and the operation as a whole cannot reach that optimal level of performance. So every member, every department plays a key role in optimizing performance at the Moss Mine. Thank you for taking the time today to go through this video with us on the process of mining. It's a complex system where we literally change rock into gold. For our investors, community members, and potential employees, we appreciate the opportunity to answer questions you may have regarding the Moss Mine.